This is EdTech, the education-focused show brought to you by the fine folks at AV Nation. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host. With us this month is Greg Brown from UCLA. Hello, sir.
Hello, Tim. Hello, world.
Hello. Very nice. That's a programming joke, unless you didn't get that. All right. Mike Tomei.
And a bit optimistic for us, yes?
Yes, it's a bit optimistic. Yes. Mike Tomei from, I always screw this up, Tomei AV.
Correct. Tomei AV Consulting, yep.
Hot dog. and my buddy Ernie Bailey from UAMS. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine.
Real quickly before we get started, I wanted to talk about Infocom. Infocom classes specifically. If you're not familiar with what Infocom is the pro side of AV. Their trade show. Infocom International is the trade organization for pro and commercial AV. They have their biggest U.S. event, which is in Orlando this year. It's typically in June. This year it happens to be in Orlando, and Mr. Ernie Bailey will be teaching a couple classes. So, Ernie, which classes will you be hitting?
I'll be doing one on, what was it? I just went blank.
That's right.
Making your lecture hall interactive, which is actually the second one that I'll be doing. But we'll be talking about how to repurpose a lecture hall, how to work with technology to make it more interactive, make it less of a lecture hall and more of an interactive teaching space, without having to tear it down and start over. You know, what can you do technology-wise to make that happen? And the other one is improving the AV support model. Is that the title, right title?
That's what it says.
Something like that. I don't have it in front of me. But we're talking about moving a classroom support team from SneakerNet to, a fully functional proactive team instead of a reactive team. How to build your AV support and enhance your offering to your campus.
Very cool. And you're also going to be doing Infocom on campus. For you, it's just a short jaunt to the east over to Vanderbilt in Nashville. So what exactly is Infocom on campus?
I can probably answer that question better after I do this because I've never done one of these.
Oh, okay. Well, the reason I asked last year, Scott Tyner from Bates College, who was on the show for a long time, did the same thing at MIT.
Okay.
Did a couple presentations, and he did it last year as well. So.
Okay. Well, basically, I know there are going to be 5 presenters. We're going to talk about technology in the classroom. My part is talking about BYOD, and I'm talking specifically about how, as technology managers, we support faculty more than anything else, bringing their own device as a presentation tool, whether it's in-house faculty or how do you work with the guest faculty? How do you communicate with the other parts of IT to make it happen, and just what all can you do? But that'll be on May the 21st, like you said, at Vanderbilt University. I'll be talking for about a half hour on that.
Okay, all right. And if you're interested in the classes, go to infocomshow.org and you can sign up for Ernie's class. All right, kick this one off from our buddies over at Commercial Integrator. We're going to talk about PASS, Partner Alliance for Safer Schools. For those of you who attended the NSCA BLC in late February, you got a short little preview of this from NSCA head Chuck Wilson. But PASS, which is powered by Security Industry Association, SIA, and the National Systems Contractor Association, NSCA, outlined their product agnostic guidelines for the use of electronic security and life safety equipment in schools, system requirements, documents, and training opportunities at ISC last week. Greg, I'm going to start off with you on this one. Is this something? This is geared towards K-12. I should start off by saying that. However, I look at these guidelines. I look at the agnosticism of them, which when it comes to control and it comes to standards like this, I'm a big fan of being agnostic. Is this something that we can take in education in higher ed, everything above 12, and start applying, or is it something where we need to see how this kind of fleshes out?
I think we could, but I don't think we will. I mean, we are infamously do it yourself, I think, on things like this in higher ed, and it is pretty clearly K through 12. But I congratulate these folks for doing this. I mean, this is clearly a big area of concern, security like this, and it's an area right now where there's little or no guidance and there are no standards. So I'm glad to see somebody stepping up and doing this. I think it's a good effort. Whether it serves as a start of some avenue into higher ed, I don't know. I kind of doubt it. I'd love to see something much more on a higher ed scale happen. Would have loved to have seen Infocom jump into this, but here again, I don't think Infocom tends to understand higher ed very well.
Really?
But, yes.
No, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm asking. I see, because I always felt, granted, I used to be a tech manager. I always felt that they did.
I don't think they know how to market to higher ed. I mean, let each one of us. I mean, does anybody above, or in your case, Tim, in your previous job, how many people above you knew anything about Infocom? They
Okay,
are largely.
I'll give you that. So you're saying
Yeah.
they don't know how to market to the people above you, the CTOs, the CIOs.
They
Correct.
they don't know how to make themselves applicable to anybody but the specific tech manager on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think that's something they've, not to fault them. I think they have made efforts, but I think that's something they have always and continue to struggle with. So I give NSCA all the credit for jumping into this sort of market. I think it's a useful sort of thing.
Okay, so let's take a little diversion here, and Ernie, will come back to you with the actual question. But both you and Greg have been the heads of the Technology Managers Council with Infocom. How
Right.
should they do it? How do they market to it? I mean, I'm not asking you to be a marketing genius here, but what do you think is the best way for a trade organization generically? Obviously we're talking about Infocom specific here, but a trade organization generically to get to someone that to get to the person that's above you that you report to get some of these standards and some of this momentum going.
I've wondered that for many years because, like you said, they do a great job talking with technology managers and giving us what we need to train our staff. But there have been attempts in the past to bring in our leadership, but they'll, say we're going to have this course for your CIO, your CTO, for your CEO, and then they'll send it to us to take to them to invite to the show. And I don't think that's really the appropriate way to do it. I think they need to address it. I think white papers and surveys and studies that they can present and maybe present through other organizations, through the professional groups that the CIO, the CTO, CEO, whoever deal with. What groups are they members of, and how do they partner with those to provide information about Infocom? I think that would be the best way to do it, because they're not going to listen to me or go with me to a trade show.
I think Ernie kind of really hit on a big one there. The working with other organizations. That's another thing that I think Infocom has really not done a good job with, is collaborating with these other trade organizations. I mean, the people around me and above me are parts of all sorts of other higher ed themed organizations, right. And yet those people and the people in these organizations either have no idea who Infocom is, or, oh, well, they're that other organization that we have no contact with. I think that would be a very useful thing to do, yeah. and not something they've done particularly well.
Okay, so let's talk through this.
Are we getting off track here?
I don't. You know what? It's a Monday. I've had plenty of coffee. We're good, and I actually like that. This is an important conversation. This part here, at least.
I think so.
Who is that then? And I'm asking because I genuinely don't know. Yes, I have some thoughts in the back of my head. Some technology groups. Some was it the week before Infocom? There's a rather large trade show called Cisco World. guess who the main
Right.
sponsor of that trade show is. But it's you know it's bigger than the U.S. Infocom. I don't know that's quite hit ISC numbers yet. I think it's about 40 to 50,000, so it's on the same realm of ISC. But there will be more people there than at Infocom. It's technology specialists, their CIOs, their CTOs. There will be IT professionals. The only reason I know about it over the last few years is there are a couple of AV companies who have started getting into that world. So you've got that. You've got last week in Vegas, you had NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters. Huge show. I mean,
Right.
I know you were talking 100 plus thousand people. Extron exhibits at that show. Sennheiser exhibits at that show. Harman International exhibits at that show. There are a number of AV companies that are there. A number of CTOs and CIOs were going to be at NAB. You have CEA, which is the Consumer Electronics Association. Again, they put on CES, which is in Vegas every year in January. Much bigger show, a much bigger organization than the membership of Infocom. Are these the organizations, or are we talking about some obscure name that maybe most of us haven't heard of, but they are in and of themselves, large IT trade groups?
Well,
Great.
EDUCAUSE is a really large one that does a great job
Yes.
kind of covering all aspects of IT departments.
But is
And,
isn't EDUCAUSE? I'm sorry, but EDUCAUSE was at one point in conjunction with Infocom for at least a few years.
Yeah, it was for a few years. It was and it wasn't. There was a little bit of crossover. They tried to make it that way. They were not successful really because there wasn't enough overlap. EDUCAUSE, you'll see more instructional design people and senior faculty there, and they're not really interested. They're not wowed like we are by the technology in the rooms. And that's what they saw Infocom as the show floor. But that would be a group to try to bring in and let them know that Infocom is more than just the equipment, that it is a training and an educational program.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just going to say also that I think it's tough too for Infocom because AV departments don't necessarily always fall under IT. So they might be targeting CIOs, and AV departments in higher ed sometimes fall under library or facilities or other departments like that. So there's a lot of different people that they have to market to. So
Right.
yeah, so I could see
Yeah,
the challenge there.
That is valid. The one thing I will take a slight exception. I think the last time that they did a survey, something like 80%, 83% of responding tech managers said that is the department that they fall under in
Right.
some way, shape, or form. Right.
Yeah.
I know in some organizations I deal with in St. Louis, even if they fall under library now is under
IT.
information technology.
Right.
Don't ask me how that makes sense. I just know that's what they do. So.
Yeah.
Although the folks I have found who don't know what Infocom is or have a very shaky understanding of what Infocom is tend to be those outlying little out on their own AV groups doing their own thing that aren't controlled by an IT department and
Right.
kind of controlling the Wild West on their campus and not often not collaborating or talking with other campuses too, and kind of being little islands onto themselves. So I think it's probably I'm not going to question that statistic too much, but I think it's probably also the people that their surveys tend to find are the people that are part of
Right.
big organized IT departments where there is a knowledge of things like standards and industry organizations.
Well, let me ask. This is a totally off the rails now. Ernie, you've been
Yes.
involved with Infocom for a long time.
Yes.
How did you first hear about Infocom? Like when did you first hear? When did you go to your first show?
Actually, my predecessor and previous boss went to it. Well, it was NAVA, National Audiovisual Association.
So it's been a
back
while
then.
ago.
That was back in the early 80s, and he actually made it kind of difficult for me to attend my first show because he attended one and got a job. That's how I got moved into the leadership role. But I had to agree that I would not even look for a job while I was attending. My boss said, I'm not going to send someone every year and lose them.
Well, how often do you go to Infocom and not have somebody have
I
that
was going to say
conversation
that.
with you?
I wasn't going to mention that because I think I was even offered one last year. But anyhow,
It's supposed to be against the policy at Infocom, but
it's not like. Never mind.
That's
it
against
was
the
at one point. It was actually, the only way you could hire someone at Infocom was through they had to go to a special booth, and you had to go there and meet them.
Really?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
15 years ago, if you were a tech manager, you had to be escorted on the show floor or something like that?
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, now you guys
That changed about 15 or 16 years ago.
Okay.
That changed when Randy Lemke came in.
All right, so Ernie's first one was actually NAVA, which Google that, kids. That was what Infocom was called before Infocom. Mike, when was your first one? How did you first hear about Infocom?
The first show, well, I first heard about it. I was looking for certification, and so ended up getting the CTS. So that's kind of how I came to them. And then my first show, I think, was 2008, when I had enough of a budget to actually go out to the show. But that was a Vegas year. But yeah, I originally went to them just because of certification, and then started branching out from there and realizing what else they offered, really. Before that, I just kind of thought they were the certification people, and that's it. So.
All right, Mr. Brown, where was your first one?
My first one, I think, I don't have the badges hanging up right now, but I think it was 99 in Vegas at the Sands Convention Center.
Wow.
And I think I was just up there for a day, if I remember right. Flew in the morning and left at night, very tired. And I probably found out about it through the magazines. I've always been a big reader, and even today I try and read all the trade rags out there I can. So that was probably how I found out about it. Probably about the same time I got my CTS too.
Well, I was in the same boat. I had just it'd been a few years, and I was a new tech manager. That my predecessor knew nothing about this, and I got invited to Infocom, weirdly enough, by Extron. It was the year that they were in one of the years that they were in Anaheim, and Extron was having a class a couple of days before Infocom. And so I went out and took the class, and then stayed on for the trade show. So, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those roundabouts where you either learn from somebody who knows, or you, like Mike does, you go out searching for some sort of certification. All right, let's wrap this back around. Ernie, the pass standards. Is this something that we can, as tech managers, whether it's us or the people above us, something that we can take and start putting into place on our campuses for mass notification, or do we need to see how this kind of plays out in K-12?
Well, I think we have different dynamics in that we don't have all the students in a confined area like you will see in K through 12. We're a multi-building campus. And most universities are, most higher ed is. So you've got a lot more open spaces and different things to deal with. As far as do we do it? I think we should be part of it. We have not been on our campus. It's completely separate, and a lot of that has to do with insurance issues and regulations. Do we want the accountability and the responsibility of providing that as part of the AV systems? I've got some older systems. When we first started looking at mass notification, or that was just PA systems throughout the hallways. We did tie in some classrooms, and if the fire alarm went off, it automatically turned on the lights in the room and switched the sound system over to the paging system. That was as far as we went with that. With all the new stuff, with looking for active shooters and any other disasters, AV is one of the tools that should be used. Microphone speakers, digital signage, things like that can easily be brought into play. But does it need to be part of the AV support model? I don't know about that. There are a lot of different ways you can go with that, and we've talked about it, but we've kind of let the security people handle it, and we work on it as a consultant to them on, this is the technology that you can use, but we're not really part of the operation of it. We may do some implementation, but let them operate it, maintain it, and be responsible for it.
Okay, no, that's valid. Speaking of consultants, Mr. Tomei, put your consultant hat on and consult these two tech managers. Is this something, from your experience, that you would suggest, either through the design process or initially? Hey, this is something that you guys might want to take a look at, or is mass notification really a separate thing where maybe you guys can augment their knowledge base, but really it's somebody else's deal?
Yeah, so I agree with Ernie. I don't think AV departments want to own all of this. They'll be involved with the process and integrate their systems, but I think it's more of a facilities ownership. I don't see AV people wanting to take the helm in this one, and it goes hand in hand with the security systems and that sort of thing. So. I think it's great that they put this together, though, for K through 12. I'm sure K through 12, it's hard. I mean, money's always tight with K through 12, and having standards and guidelines for them so that they don't feel like they're wasting the money and going down the wrong path is a good thing. So I think this is really, really good. But it's tougher in higher ed. I don't think it really falls into AV's lap to really own it and design the systems.
Okay.
Yep.
Oddly enough, or appropriately enough, we had a shooting right off of campus about 5 o'clock Friday, and I know because I found the emergency messages here in my email when I came in this morning. So speaking of good working security systems.
Yeah, but that's UCLA, and you guys don't have any money for anything, so. All right, from our friend Margaret Awahi at AV Technology, 12 quick ways to improve audio in classrooms and learning spaces. Margot actually pinged an awful lot of integrators and manufacturers for this. She even put in one herself. Her favorite idea is making sure you have a darn good podium microphone, things like acoustic treatment, speaker placement, things of that nature. So I'm going to ping you, gentlemen, and say, don't give me 12 or 13, just give me 1 or 2. Ernie, what's your best way to improve audio in the classroom?
I'm going to go with the quality microphones, both for the students and for the instructors. I look at this, and a good bit of this is what I'll be talking about for making your lecture hall interactive.
So Marco stole your presentation?
No, she enhanced it.
I hate when that happens.
I love when that happens.
But I mean, we're looking at several things. In the lecture halls that we're upgrading, we're putting in the conference mics with little speakers. We're putting one mic. She says no more than 2 people per microphone. We're doing it 3, and that has a lot to do with how the table is laid out and where I can put the microphones. Still have room for students to put laptops down. So I'm looking at that, and all of our new lecture halls, we do have charging stations for our wireless microphones. So I mean, I think this is a wonderful infographic. It provides the information that you need out there, and like I said, it's is what we'll be talking about in my class. Part of the stuff we'll be talking about. And of course, an ADA system is always a requirement.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We're even putting that in our smaller classrooms. You know, you don't have to till you get to a certain number of seats, but we're deciding is any room we integrate. I mean, it's not that expensive. It's a wonderful tool. You know, if you do end up with students that need it, this way we don't have to carry a transmitter around when they go to small groups. You know, we put them, they're obviously in all of our lecture halls, but putting them in the small rooms I'm finding is very helpful and gives us an additional tool that we can use.
Was that a decision that you guys made as a group, or was that something that came about as a larger discussion?
We did it just as a group. The AV group decided, you know, while we're doing this, you know, why don't we? It's not, once again, it's not difficult to put in. It's not expensive. We're not providing receivers for every room. We have enough receivers for the number of students that we have, and then it's easy to add more as we need them. We can support our large lecture halls. If we have a guest speaker and we have a large audience, we have enough to meet the industry standards to take care of whoever comes in. So, but we do timeshare them.
Very good. All right, Mr. Tomei, from your standpoint, what's one or two things that you can do to improve the audio in a classroom or learning space?
Yeah, so one big topic that always comes up with classroom audio is are ceiling mics adequate? And same with meeting spaces too. Are ceiling mics adequate? I feel like ceiling mics are almost like an addiction. They're easy to spec because they're installed out of the way, easy for integrators to install. But I just know that I won't like how they sound in the long run.
Brother.
You know, it's like
friends don't let friends still install ceiling mics.
Hey man, we need an intervention.
Yeah. If they're always like a good enough option, which is an approach I hate to take. So I feel like getting away from the ceiling mics and looking at other options like table miking is always the way to go. And I think people should always focus on that. Another thing that stood out to me was that room acoustics need to be addressed before any talk of audio equipment begins. If you have an atrocious room with concrete walls and a concrete ceiling and concrete floor, you could put the best audio equipment in there and it's still going to sound like a mess. So, so I always try to focus on that during the early design stages.
Yeah. Can I step in on the ceiling mics? I pretty much agree with Mike, but we do run into some situations where that is the only solution. You know, maybe you've got movable furniture that you have to deal with.
Right.
Or, you know, you're renovating an existing space. I've got a lecture hall we're going to renovate that, you know, it has fold-up tablets, a tabloid desk for students sitting there if they want to set their book or laptop. It's not real convenient. There's no way I'm going to work out the wiring system, put a microphone on those. So, you know, we'll end up with little tennis ball mics scattered around the room. But I will say there's some better ceiling mics coming out.
What?
They have only one direction they can go.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
They have only one direction they can go, Ernie.
Yes.
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 Ernie, would it be better to do that as opposed to maybe wireless? I mean, you've already got a good cadre of wireless on campus. Would it be better to do that as opposed to a ceiling mic?
I haven't found an adequate. These are for large number, you know, larger rooms. So I would end up having to have probably 30 to 40 wireless devices in there. And when we did the lecture halls that you just programmed for us, we actually talked to several manufacturers, and they couldn't come up with anything that could give us the number that we needed in those rooms. We ended up putting table mics in those rooms, of course, but we even looked at a way to do wireless table mics. You know, some of our larger lecture halls, we do have wireless handhelds, and we provide runners, or AV does not provide runners. We provide microphones for people to take them and, you know, do the Phil Donahue deal.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Mr. Brown, from your standpoint, what's one or two things that you can do to improve audio?
Not use ceiling mics.
Well, they leave Ernie alone.
No, don't get me wrong. I love ceiling mics. I love the way they swing back and forth in the breeze from the air conditioning register that they are inevitably placed next to.
Yes.
I think if it was an interesting list, but I think if more than 2 or 3 of these come across as oh, hey, that's a great idea to the person playing with your classroom audio system, they should not be playing with your classroom audio system.
Yeah.
So you're saying that this is an elementary list?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with an elementary list. I'm just making sure that we.
Yeah, I'm not saying they were short of pages that month, but
Hey. Wow.
I shouldn't say.
All right, moving on.
I love AV technology. I undoubtedly have a copy of it right here behind me. So
I don't doubt that you do. And Margot will be yanking your subscription today.
Yeah, it's been
not free anymore anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not free for Mr. Brown.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's beat up on her some more. Tech trends that will be higher ed's new normal. Actually, this is really cool. Obviously, flipped classroom, which is already here. BYOD, which is also already here. Then she goes into 2 midterm and long term. In other words, you're looking at the next 3 years and then 5+ years. Makerspace and wearable technology. Apple just released the fact that they have over 1 million pre-orders for their new watch. And then for long term, you're looking at IoT, which I would take some issue with her and say that that's more of a short midterm, and adaptive learning techniques. Greg, since you're
in trouble
wanting to
already.
help out AV technology, what's a couple of things that's going to be our in our wheelhouse?
I think these are all interesting, but we're going to be all over the map as far as when these are when these take hold. I think I agree with you that IoT has some interesting possibilities in the shorter term, and makerspaces. I know somebody. I know a group on campus that's about to sink a whole ton of money into 3D printers and start offering that as a service here on campus. So, it's like with most things in higher ed. Some of us are going to be doing this stuff in a couple months, and some of us will be looking to do these things when we're doing this show 10 years from now.
We're going to still be doing this show 10 years from now. Okay, then. Ernie,
a victim of our own success.
Oh, yes.
I've got to agree with Greg. We are.
That we'll be doing the show in 10 years.
That too, yeah. But I mean, we've already flipped classrooms. We have BYOD. As I said, I'm talking about that next month at Vanderbilt, and how we make it easy for the instructors. The others, I mean, the Internet of Things, like you said, we're already seeing it. It's just continuing to grow, whether it's in the workplace or at the home. My refrigerator is not online yet, but I'm sure my next one will be.
Mm-hmm.
But anything and everything, I can check my security system here on my smartphone, make sure my house is secure if we're gone. And when I'm at home, I can check on things here at work. I can check on individual classrooms, devices in the classrooms, whatever I need to do. So Internet of Things is there. The makerspaces, we're not seeing that so much here in the health science industry, but I do see it growing on university campuses.
That could be pretty scary in a medical center.
Yeah, it could, but I mean, we're seeing similar things in some of our research areas, but it's not touching the classroom and the teaching spaces that I'm dealing with.
It's alive.
Yeah, it's alive. Yes.
All right, Mr. Tomei, from your standpoint, what's a couple other technologies that's coming down the pipeline?
Well, I think the 2 short-term tech trends that they mentioned, flipped classrooms and BYOD, are obviously here, but I don't know that people are really doing them very well. When what I've seen from the flipped classrooms or the active learning environments that people are trying to install. I mean, it seems like higher ed's big goal right now is to redesign learning spaces, and it's usually, once again, kind of the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So somebody will really want some technology in a classroom. They end up, shoehorning a lot of technology into these active learning rooms, and they're not used for the purpose that they were built for. So I feel like people, they're here, but people really need to spend a lot of time in the needs analysis stage with instructors and professors to really find out how they want to teach versus the direction that administrators might want those spaces to go in. Same with BYOD. That's a tough one to really cover every iOS and Android and Microsoft device that's going to come in there and handle it really well. So I think that's a tough one that people are doing right now, but there isn't really a nice standard for that. So those are still going to be.
Do you need a standard? Sorry, Mike. Do you need a standard for that? I mean, is it one of those things? And this may be too simplistic on my part, but where you go, okay, what's the market? What's the market saturation for X, Y, and Z device? Well, okay, so Android and iOS are the two main operating systems for mobile.
Yep.
Okay. Microsoft is the main operating system for laptops. Okay, so as long as we get those three covered, who cares if they're running Linux or Symbian?
Yeah. Yeah, it's once again, it's just the needs analysis stage that you have to figure out what your instructors are bringing in there or students are bringing in, and you sometimes just have to go with the majority rules on that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, last article here, and it's kind of silly, but it's worth noting, or at least worth asking the question. It comes from the Journal, thejournal.com, and they ask the question, how fast does your internet have to be? And there's a reason I'm asking this question. I'm getting ready to go next week to a conference called TSNA. It is put on by Avenue Alliance. If you're not familiar with what Avenue Alliance is, if you've ever heard the term AVB, Audio Video Bridging, this is their next iteration. TSN stands for Time Sensitive Network, and it is the next generation, the next evolution of AVB. You've got that going on. You've got audio and video, and now control, which is where the TSN stuff comes from, going on the network. Then you've got this little resolution called 4K. I don't care which version of 4K, whether it's 2K or up all the way up to the 5K version. You're going to start pushing things in the gigabit network area. So, Mr. Tomei, we'll start with you, Mr. Consultant. You're going into a campus today, and you're starting to talk about, they want everything on the network. Great, groovy, awesome. And you tell them all they need is a 56K modem. Is that right?
Yeah, right. No, I feel like on college campuses right now, the network speed is big, but wireless coverage is a bigger problem for them. And
Yes.
network groups are focusing almost exclusively on wireless coverage. And so people might not even notice slow network speeds because they can't even connect to wireless access points or have any sort of decent connection speed when buildings are full of students with lots of different devices. So yeah, no doubt it's going to be a problem trying to place all these AV signals, through AVB and everything like that on these networks that are already crushed when it's peak, class time.
All right, Mr. Brown, from your standpoint, is that do you concur? It's more about the wireless than is the actual wired speed?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we have very fast connections to the desktop here, but we don't have wireless yet in every place on campus or in all the classrooms. So, yeah, that's still the struggle here too.
All right, Ernie, from you too.
I have to agree as well. And, we are pretty well wireless from end to end on our campus. We have been for years. That's one thing we have done. I don't know that we've always done it well, but we do provide wireless I was in a meeting one time with our CIO, and we were sitting in a classroom, and we had people connecting to the support center that we were dealing with. We were demonstrating some equipment, and she about had a fit when realized that the person with the wireless connection was getting through faster than the wired computer that had been provided by her department. End to end was provided by them, as well as the wireless was, and the wireless was going much faster.
Wow.
But I think being able to handle the saturation of devices, it used to be, you expected one device per person was going to be the max you were going to see. Well, now we're looking at 3 or 4 devices per person in a classroom. Their laptop, their iPad or tablet, their smartphone, their watch, their glasses, whatever else is all connected. And, can you handle that saturation? And an issue we're running into is a student will decide to drop their phone down and create a hotspot in the middle of the classroom.
Yeah.
That interferes with the wireless network to some extent. I don't fully understand how, but I know our IT people scream and holler about our network engineers, scream and holler when that happens, because it affects what they're able to do in the classrooms. So, I mean, they even fuss, we pick up cars with hotspots built into them driving right next to a building, and we see fluctuation in the wireless patterns that we have when that happens. So I don't know that as much as how much speed do you need as it is to how much bandwidth do you need, and can you handle everything that's coming across at one time? And I mean, we're not looking at AVB across campus. We're looking at it maybe within small sections, and we're creating an AV network that then has one connection to the campus backbone.
Yeah.
So we can talk to it, but we're not trying to run video or audio from room A to room Z. Fully over the network through the switches. If we're going to do that, we're going to go through a video conferencing codec or something like that, or we will stream it and make it one way.
That makes sense.
Well, I think still largely isn't AVB AB.
Primarily, yeah. I mean, they still don't.
Yeah.
They still don't have a
Not a
video
lot
codec.
of V in AVB.
What?
Well, you're starting to see more, I think, and with the AVB certified network switches that you can ask your network engineers to put in throughout campus are very expensive, and are you going to be using them?
I don't think you can ask our network engineers to do anything, frankly. They know everything already.
I feel so sorry for Mr. Brown in UCLA when it comes to All right. Guys, that's going to do it. Mr. Mike Tomei, thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you?
Going to my website is the best way to do it. It's tomeiav.com. It's TOMEIAV.com.
All right.
Or on LinkedIn.
Or on LinkedIn, Mike Tomei.
Yep.
Mr. Greg Brown from UCLA, thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you,
Where
too.
can people find you?
LinkedIn seems to be the best way to find me. I seem to spend all evening answering emails on LinkedIn, and one of these days we'll have some more blogs out here at Infocom's All Voices blog.
All right, very good. And last but not least, Ernie Bailey from UAMS. Thank you, sir.
I've enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure.
And where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn as well.
All right. And also at infocomshow.org, go sign up for Ernie's classes. Or if you're going to the Vanderbilt Infocom on campus next month. So,
okay.
Very good. My name's Tom Albright. Don't follow me, but go by the website if you would, please. avnation.tv. avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. Just had a brand new AV Crosstalk, which is a debate-style show. This month it was Brock McGinnis and Leonard Susskind battling out over the value of design build versus design bid. It's a very interesting conversation. I'll just say that from being on both sides of that.
Yes, it
both
was.
sides of that conversation. So, but yeah, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. This has been EdTech.